So we are recording this podcast on Hallows Eve. And even though it's going to come out on Monday, I still want to talk about Halloween a little bit. So a little extra treat for people tuning in. Tell me, A, did you like Halloween growing up? And B, what was the costume that you remember the most?
Well, I think I liked Halloween.
Okay.
I remember candy. I remember the collection of candy. Okay.
Yep.
I do remember that. I do remember that my mother would pour it all out to make sure razor blades weren't in it.
Who started that?
But she would. But here was the thing. My mom also loved Snickers bars. So when she would pour it all out, and you can distract a kid pretty easily.
Yeah, you give them a piece of candy and then take the rest.
Exactly. All the Snicker bars were gone.
Oh, so what she would do is she would say, hey, little Debbie, hold on. Mom's got to go make sure there's nothing that's going to kill you in this.
Yep.
Take it into the kitchen.
Yep.
Take out the razor blades.
Take out the razor blades.
Take out the needles.
Pins, anything that was in there. Terrible.
And pocket all of the Snickers bars.
Exactly.
So how old were you the first time you realized, oh my God, there's these things called Snickers bars and they're delicious?
So we would go to the grocery store and my mom would buy a Snickers bar or maybe two. And she would ask me like if I wanted a treat. Now remember, that's the day where you could buy a single Reese's peanut butter cup.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, well, you could buy a single Reese's peanut butter cup for a nickel. Okay. And I think like a real Snickers bar was maybe a dime. She'd take them home and she'd put them in a drawer in the kitchen. And she would tell me that I couldn't touch them. Like the Snickers bar, I don't think I could have ordered one. I think like I had to have something else. Like Snickers bars were hers.
The drawer that contained candy, the Snickers bars were your mom's, and then you got the nickel Reese's peanut butter cups.
I got the Reese's, but I loved a Reese's peanut butter cup, so that was fine. But I just remember never initially I didn't eat them until I was probably grown up because I was like, they're my mom's, But one year I looked in the drawer right after Halloween and there were little Snickers.
37 Snickers bars.
In the drawer, not the big ones. So I was like, did she get Snickers for Halloween or did she take mine or,
I love that you gave her the benefit of the doubt.
I did. I would have.
After Halloween, there was a drawer full of candy and you thought like, oh, maybe mom just bought new candy that I've never seen.
Exactly. I was trusting. But as far as, Kevin, honestly, I don't remember. I have no recollection of actually trick-or-treating.
Okay.
There are two outfits that I kind of remember. So my birthday is in September.
Yep.
I remember one year I wanted some kind of fairy princess, or angel. I don't know what it was, but my mom there were 4 or 5 kids that came to my birthday party, and my mom made giant cardboard wings for all of us.
Cool.
I mean, they were cool. It was like, I thought it was awesome. And I think I have a picture somewhere of all these kids sitting on the front steps with our wings, And then, but the one that I really remember that I think was a costume is I had an aunt that was an incredible seamstress.
Okay.
And this I should have never gotten rid of because this was like not a cheesy, icky, half paper fabric costume. It was real. It had velvet on it. It had tulle on it. It was this beautiful princess thing. I do remember, though, it had a neckline that was not plunging, but to me, it
risque.
Felt a little plunging. And of course, I'm 6 or 7 years old. There's nothing to show.
There are no goodies to hide.
There are no goodies. But in the picture, I'm holding my wand and I have my hand laying over my chest. So
as an extra layer of protection. Got it.
Yes.
For that busty 6-year-old.
Busty 6-year-old, yeah.
Halloween was never like a big thing for us growing up. There are families that go hard on Halloween. We didn't. And I think that's because clearly you were scarred in some capacity.
Well, you cried.
But here's the other thing. I hated Halloween.
And
what's bizarre is I love the idea of Halloween, getting to dress up. It's a communal thing. It's kind of the antithesis of Christmas. It's, orange and black, where Christmas is red and green. Because I grew up in Nevada, we got the day off.
Right. It's a holiday.
Either the Monday or the Friday before Halloween. So I really looked forward to it.
And you had a great neighborhood of kids to trick or treat with.
We would go in a herd of 12 of us.
Yeah.
But when it came to actually dressing up, I remember this, and I know you remember this too. This one year I wanted to go as Dracula.
Yes.
And Dracula is one of the most dumbed down outfits ever, right? You slick your hair back, you put on, pale white makeup, and then you do a little blood off the corner of your lip. I wouldn't let you touch me with makeup.
You hated masks. Masks freaked you out.
Totally.
And then the whole idea of makeup, but it wasn't really a lot of makeup. It was just hardly anything. And we have a picture of you with one of the neighbor girls, and she's standing there looking like, I think, a little 50s bop poodle skirt kind of thing on. And you were like,
crying.
Yes.
I can remember losing my mind in the bathroom when you tried to apply like the lightest powder down. It freaked me out. Even to this day, I don't like that. I do not like.
Is it the face thing?
I'm just really uncomfortable with altering my face in any way, which is probably good because I'll never get plastic surgery.
Right.
But the idea that putting a mask on or putting makeup on, it hits me on a weird cellular level that I'm just totally uncomfortable with.
So last week you posted a picture of you in your Superman pajamas.
Oh yeah.
So it was really funny when we went shopping for those pajamas, and I showed them to you, and you loved them and you wore them. And that year I tried to get you to get a costume for Halloween. And you're like, nope.
Superman?
No, you were nope. And so then I finally just said, hey, do you want to wear your Superman pajamas and just be a Superman? You were like, yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. And then you were spirited and fun and happy, and, you were being Superman in that picture, right?
Yeah.
A great pose. So I always felt like, and even I want to say this year, you got a costume and tried it on, and your costume goes right to here.
Yeah. It zips all the way up. It's I have a picture. I can post it. It's just an orange astronaut jumpsuit.
Yeah.
That's all
but
it is.
There's no helmet.
Nope.
There's no mask.
Nope.
You are going to wear it's super cute. Describe the mask you
it's
bought.
the LED mask. So when you put it on, there's a little button that you push, and I think there's like 100 different color options and 100 different ways that it can light up. So not only are we being safe.
It's a mask for COVID. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're being safe, but we're also kind of doing the theme as well. But no makeup.
No makeup, no big mask.
No big mask. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Like, have you ever, I've tried on once and I couldn't do it. I have a tiny bit of claustrophobia, but one of those big rubber masks that people wear, I don't know how they do it and wear it for hours at a time.
Just the smell alone would turn me off.
That. But anyways, I think Halloween was cool. I'm trying to think with you what we did. I mean, I was a bad mother too. We would lay out all the candy. I would tell you I need to check it for razor blades.
Of course.
I might snatch a couple Reese's peanut butter cups or something.
Yeah.
But then we would have you, this was a thing with you. We would let you pick out, of course, some stuff that night because, again, in Nevada, you got to sleep in, right? And the next day. And then, of course, that next day you could have candy. But then I would say, I'm putting the candy up, so you would have to ask for it. It would be in your plastic pumpkin, but up.
Mind you, when I was 10, I was like 5'11", so I was taller than my parents anyways.
And then school would come, the first day of school, back after the holiday, and you'd go, could you put some candy in my lunch? And I was all like, never, I did not. For 12 years, I did not put candy in your lunch. And sometime during your senior year, you had a complete breakdown. You go, you're the only mother in Washoe County that doesn't put Halloween candy in her kid's lunch. And I was like, that can't be true.
Took me 17 years to finally voice my frustration.
I was protecting the teachers of the world.
I feel like if there's a psychologist listening to this, there's a depth of mental anguish that we are talking about really lightheartedly here.
Yeah, we've both been scarred. Exactly. Well, I also know that one time Dad pulled the pumpkin down because he was going to get something out of it. And he goes, it's almost full. And I looked and I go, he forgets about it. I mean, so we weren't going to remind you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now, here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev pod. Sitting across from me is my lovely tie-dye wearing mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
You know, tie-dye is really in fashion right now.
I know, but does it kind of look? It's like outdoor wear, but does it kind of look like I'm wearing my pajamas?
I wouldn't have thought that initially, but now I see it. It looks like a nice night sky.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I can go with that. Yeah, good. I like that then.
And I am her tall, obviously scared of costumes son, Kev, and this is our podcast. We just want to say hello to all of our listeners. Of course, thank you for tuning in every single week. It's such a joy. And to all 2 of the viewers on our YouTube channel, hey, it's good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
It's good to be seen.
They're going to know when we do something,
right?
Like, shake it up or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to know we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
All
Nobody
2 of
else
them.
knows. Yeah.
All 2 of you, we see you. We love you. Thank you for the support.
Yeah.
So right off the top, you get people who talk to you all the time and say, hey, Kevin pitches you guff on this podcast all the time. It's time that you give it back to him.
Correct.
But
all the time.
But you know how hard it is to try to pitch me guff because I'll just take it.
You have no shame.
True.
You don't care.
I don't.
I can bring anything up.
So without giving the ending away, on Mondays, you and I go to the chiropractor for some just maintenance, making sure our spine is aligned. He works on your foot. He works on my lower back. It's a great experience. We know everybody there.
We love everybody there.
So you and I had an appointment for 4 p.m. on Monday. We arrive and it's fairly busy. So we get there a couple minutes before our appointment and it's clear that we're going to have to wait for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I have done some thinking about this after the fact. I believe that I have not worn a mask for that long uninterrupted. So for about 20 minutes, we were sitting there waiting for our appointment, which is not normal for that place.
That's not normal at all.
And I can remember thinking, wow, I've really been wearing this mask for a long time. And it's a breathable mask. It's actually cooler than most masks. So the wonderful assistant comes and grabs both of us because we just get our treatment together.
Yeah.
You go first, then I go.
Yeah.
And the way the rooms are set up is they're all right off of the main foyer where people are waiting. So you get up, you just round the little baby corner to go in, and there's 2 spots for treatment. There's a blue table where you lie face down, and a red table that's closer to the ground where you also can lie face down, but a lot of the times it's on your side because they adjust your neck.
Yeah, you're always on the blue table.
So you get up, you start to walk in there. I stand up, and this part is very common just because I'm a tall guy. Now, I stood up and I just got mildly lightheaded. And I know that that's common simply because of the stature of who I am. That when I stand up, all the blood rushes to my feet. Okay? So that split second of dizziness literally comes and goes, gone. I took 1 step and I thought, oh, this is lingering a little longer. I took a second step and I don't remember anything after that except waking up, laying across the red table, head against the wall, poster crashed down next to me, and like 5 spots on my body just burning with pain because in the middle of walking, I passed out.
So I'll tell you what it looked like.
And I want everybody to know, I'm telling this story and my mom is laughing.
So I was actually kind of standing in the direction of where I would see you walk in.
Yeah.
So it was like a projectile coming in across the room. So it missed, kind of half landed on the bed, but continued past the red bed.
Yep.
Slammed into the wall. The picture on the wall fell down.
I'll tell you how discombobulated I was. I didn't even know I knocked the thing down.
Picture on the wall flew down. And you at the end were like, your head, you had a big red mark here, like your head had clearly smashed into the wall. The wall stopped you. And then you're draped in the most awkward, I should have taken a picture, but that would have been horrible.
You did nothing.
I did nothing. I just stood there with my eyes wide open. I felt like we were in a medical facility. They were better equipped to help than I was. But a piece of me wanted to run over like your mom, like, oh, honey. But then a piece of me was like, he's 6'7" and there's medical people here. So I kind of hung back. I did keep saying, Kev, are you sure you're okay? Because you were a little You weren't right for a minute or two.
No.
Yeah.
So here's what I can tell you. I did not work out that day.
Yep.
I had eaten more than enough food. I was fully hydrated. So I don't take any medication or anything along those lines. And it was 4:00 in the afternoon.
Caffeine?
Caffeine would have been fully consumed by noon.
Okay.
So there was nothing altering my state. So we can take that off of the table. I've been watching a lot of episodes of House recently. So I turned into a diagnostician.
Yes.
And I turned to WebMD. And it's very common for taller people to have that lightheadedness, dizziness when they stand up. I've never once in my life passed out, ever. I've never blacked out. I've never passed out. That's just never been something that's happened to me. So I think I just took that one pause of being like, oh, this is a little longer than normal for granted. And I should have just gathered myself. The things looking back on it that are hilarious to me is I can only imagine what it's like watching a 6'7" dude just tumble to the ground.
Oh, like it wasn't tumble. You need to understand it was like somebody shot you.
Superman style?
You didn't fold and crumple. You went like that straight into the wall.
Use your words to describe it because only two people can see what you're doing.
That's right. I'm sorry. No, it was like, it was as if, and I know this didn't happen, but you might have tripped on your own feet.
Sure.
It was as if you tripped and the trip sent you flying forward, mostly across, like if you'd been a shorter person, it would have been mostly across the red bed into the wall.
Yeah.
But for you, it was across the red bed into the wall. Now you're draped across the red bed. I think one leg was on one side of the bed and the other leg was on the other side of the bed. It happened so fast.
So let me say this. I have seen people fall before.
Right.
I've watched it in real life. I've watched it on videos. The thing that I always thought, always thought is, why are these people acting like everything's okay? They just fell. And my first inclination was like, I'm good. I'm totally fine. I took the biggest digger of my 36 years. I bashed my head against the wall. And my first inclination was like, this is great. Everything's totally normal.
Do you remember me saying to you, Kevin, your head, that you like right here, there was like a giant triangle where you had just smashed.
No, I remember that because I was awake at that point. But in that moment, I thought, everything's fine. Everything's totally fine, minus the fact that you just blacked out in the middle of walking.
Well, plus you're not even paying attention to the people that are like, is he going to sue us? Is this a thing?
Well, what was funny is you were literally the only one who saw me. The assistant had her back turned to me. Everybody else was in the other room, which is connected by a small hallway. So you were the only one to see it. Everybody else only heard it or felt it, the rumbling. So
there was an earthquake effect.
So my immediate response is everything's okay. Clearly it's not. Then the other thing that people want to do is quickly get out of that situation, right?
You mean the folded over the table, half hanging
they want to
out?
leave the area.
Oh, yeah.
We were there for an appointment. And it's like the best place you could possibly be would be like a medical practice of some kind. And so I'm sure I'm beat red at that point. I'm trying desperately to hang this poster, which I did have my wits about me, but it was the way it was being hung.
Could not get the nail.
It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So then I'm just...
And the little tech is going like, it's okay, Kev. We'll get it later. It's okay, Kev.
Like, no, it's fine.
And you're like, I'll get it. I'll get it. I'll get it.
So then I want to be literally anywhere other than right there, but I have to sit there. And then the chiropractor works on you. He asks if I'm okay. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what okay is at that point. And then he starts working on me. I'm sure terrified that he's going to cause some worse injury to me. And he like looks at my neck and he goes, I don't know if this is normal or from the fall you took, but I'm going to work on this. So ultimately everything was fine. I thought I was going to have a fat bruise above my left eye.
I thought you were too.
Surprisingly, there's nothing there.
Because you came home. Did you take a picture of what you did when
you
came home?
I took an ice pack, wrapped it in a rag, and the ice pack has elastic Velcro on it, and I just put it on my head.
So you were wearing like an ice pack permanently attached.
Like a World War II injured soldier.
Oh.
But the worst part is a skinned knee.
Yeah.
I got a little abrasion on the outside of my thigh. For the better part of 2 days, I did have a couple headaches, and I'm not a headache guy. So I researched what it was.
You got Dr. Google. You went straight to him.
I'm officially diagnosing myself as mild closed head injury, which can lead to mild traumatic brain injury, which also falls in lines with post-traumatic headaches that I've had. And the thing that really messed me up, because I was like, I never have headaches. I've never been a headache guy. I certainly don't have migraines. So there's this dull ache that was happening because I slammed my head into a wall. And the stat that I read that really freaked me out was like 78% of people 3 months after the injury still get headaches. 35% still have headaches after a year, and 24% of people have headaches 2 years or longer.
How do you feel today?
Fine.
Okay,
totally
one
fine.
day at a time, baby. One day at a time.
God. That I apologize if that went long, but it was the most obscene thing I've ever done. And you said you I think you were more taken aback because I've never done anything like that in my life.
Well, one of the things when you were little, doctors used to say to us, get him in sports so he feels real comfortable with his body. He's such a big kid. You want him to stand tall, have good posture, be proud of his height, things like that. And we put you in Taekwondo very early. You got a black belt by the time you were 11. So I really felt like you've always been, first of all, just, your body. I'm oblivious to my body, but your body, right? I've seen you fall on a basketball court and slide halfway down court. I mean, I've seen you take elbows. I mean, all of that. This I've never seen in my life.
Technically, I never saw it either.
It was like when you said to me, like, it was like watching a baby giraffe, learn to walk.
Oh, when you were on your crutches?
When I was on my crutches. This was like watching a baby giraffe be
black out and stumble and fall into a wall.
No, I mean be catapulted, straight forward into the wall and then try to get up. It wasn't working. And you did what you just said is you actually did. I'm okay.
Yeah. My pride is somewhat back to normal. I don't know that I can ever go back to that chiropractic practice. I might have to burn it to the ground.
They love you.
Remove all traces. But man, that was a thing.
It was a thing for sure. It was shocking. It was shocking.
Deb.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what it means, what it looks like, what it is to be an inspirational leader in this world of 2020.
So what do you think it means, Kev?
I have no idea. This is the segment where I just kind of relax, nod, approve, and then add some edits later.
So there are two guys that I really like. One passed away in January 2020. His name's Clayton Christensen. He was a professor at Harvard, and I'll read a wonderful thing that he wrote. And another guy is named Bob Chapman. And Bob Chapman is alive and well, and he's the CEO of a company called Barry Waymiller in, where is it? St. Louis, Missouri.
Got it.
And it's like a $2.5 billion global manufacturing company.
Wow.
So Bob is unbelievable in his commitment to his people. He has 11,000 employees. And he refers to them as each and every one of them are someone's precious child, which, when you say that, it's like you suddenly go, oh, like, how do I need to treat somebody that I refer to as someone's precious child? Well, the thing that Clayton Christensen and Bob Chapman, and I was Googling it trying to find if they know each other or if they've ever met, because their philosophies run very similar. Mm-hmm. Bob Chapman actually wrote in a blog piece about a Clay Christensen piece that I'm going to read. I was lucky enough at Harvard to take a couple classes from Clayton Christensen, and he is brilliant. I mean, he's known for innovation and, disruption in business. I mean, he was a great mind and an incredible human being. But he also has this thing about, how we treat people, how leadership or management treats people, right? And he said he just watched over the years. He watched people come back to reunions that had great monetary success, but they were sad. They weren't happy. They were divorced. Their children weren't speaking to them. And, he said that what he really wanted was, he looked at it, if he was in charge of managing somebody, that he couldn't bear that their day with him or at his company, if you will, had been so dreadful that they would, walk out feeling dejected, get in their car, walk home, and then take that home to their family.
Yeah.
Like that. And yet he knows that if that's the situation, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Of course.
Right. And so that was a big kind of framework, like the desire to not ever have that happen for Clayton Christensen. Bob Chapman, and that's why I'd like to know, like, did one get it from the other? I mean, was there ever a conversation? Because it would be very likely that those two would have known each other. Is so committed to, I want to just say, rewarding goodness. So he has a philosophy in the company. They have incentives, but incentives apply to everybody in the line. I mean, like, incentives normally don't apply to HR, but they include everybody that would touch anything that would provide a bonus or an incentive, then everybody's a winner.
So not just sales.
Not just sales, right? Everyone gets a piece of the winning pie, if you will. But the thing that is the most recognized and celebrated in his company it's just goodness,
okay,
which everybody can do. And they look for extraordinary acts of goodness. And then they look to celebrate them. I mean, like, celebrate them like, if you were working for his company and you did something that they thought was extraordinarily kind or good, and it doesn't even have to do, with their company necessarily. There is like a surprise party, like your parents are invited in, your wife's invited in, your kids are invited in. And I mean, it is like a big whoop-de-doo. And they celebrate you. There's usually some kind of, gift or something involved. But it is really about the core of who you are. So when they say they celebrate you, they genuinely are, right? And so one of his philosophies is that, come on, let's catch people doing good stuff. I mean, it happens every day. And I think most leaders see it. It ticks our brain. We go like, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But it dies right there. And so he's saying, let's catch them doing good things, and then let's recognize and celebrate it always, right? So recognition and celebration of catching people doing good things is like an active thing within their company.
Got it.
The second one would be like they look to develop human skills. One of the things he talks about is that people come out of, master's programs or with college degrees with all sorts of technical skills for the workplace, but nobody comes out prepared to deal with human beings, and we all work with human beings, right?
Right.
And so worldwide, he has classes on empathetic listening that just changes everything. Because, when you're really listening to somebody empathetically, there is an incredible connection there. And of course, that affects the culture that those people walk into every morning.
Of course.
Which then Bob talks about, the empathetic listening, the mentioning of goodness, seeing people at their best, right? And he said, you can't shed that stuff when you go home. So he also speaks about the going home part of it. It's a really big deal to him because he wants to create an environment where people can leave his business and go home and live the best life possible in that environment. I mean, it is his thing. It is amazing to hear him speak. I mean, really, I would recommend Bob Chapman. Just Google him. He's everywhere. You can hear him on YouTube, podcasts. He's being interviewed all the time. He's awesome. There is a podcast, one that I listened to that I really liked. Simon Sinek interviewed him, and they are great friends, the two of them. And it's really good. And then the other thing is that he really believes that every good leader needs to understand that there is no relationship between happiness and money. Now, we all know, and there have been studies done, that we all need a certain amount of money in order to meet our needs to be happy.
Sure.
But the money is like, the last time I read anything on it, it was something like, not accounting for inflation right now, but $75,000 or $80,000. Okay. I mean, like after that, happiness didn't go up with more money. So if we say that happiness isn't going, or money isn't going to be the core of our happiness, then you've got to find out what is, right? So, I mean, what is that X factor? And it's different in each human being, right? So in his company, it is management and leaders' responsibility to find out what is that thing that triggers happiness in each and every person, right?
Yep.
Because when you find that, you can wrap meaning around their work.
That makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. So I just think that, I mean, if a leadership did those three things, I mean, which are recognition and celebration, catching people doing good things and really, making a fuss about it in a good way, developing the human skills, which are the things that we take with us everywhere and service so well, and understand that there is no relationship between money and happiness. Yeah. It doesn't exist. And certainly we have all seen interviews of enough wealthy, successful people that have said, I thought when I got here, it would all be perfect.
Sure.
And they get there. And of course, it's not. He also has, and I think this is a Simon Sinek quote, but in all of their offices, it says, we imagine a society where people think of others first, which is
beautiful.
A great creed, right? I mean, like if you're going to have a motto or a creed, that's amazing. And so, and then I think it's the same old thing. When people are treated really well and when people are inspired to be their best, which is what they're doing, they want them to be their best. I mean, what do you see? Little or no turnover. I mean, he says people stay with them forever. And why wouldn't you? Because you're happy to go to work for 40 hours a week, right? I mean, increased productivity, increased sales, decreased expenses. I mean, all of the things that any business is striving for are so much easily attained, just because you have a plan to treat people well.
Right.
So there's a thing I want to read because I love this, and Clayton Christensen wrote this, and it's too, I mean, I won't do it any service unless I actually pull this up and read it, but I think this would sum it up. So if you ask me to put a bow on it, the bow is right here.
Put a bow on it,
Put
Deb.
a bow on it. He says management, you could put in leadership if you wanted to there, but management is the most noble of professions if it's practiced well. No other occupation offers as many ways to help others learn and grow, take responsibility and be recognized for achievement, and contribute to the success of a team. More and more MBA students come to school thinking that a career in business means buying, selling, and investing in companies. That's unfortunate. Doing deals doesn't yield the deep reward that comes from building up people. And I just love that. I mean, I really do. He said this conversation really got started, I'm going to say like the group of students that would have been graduating from Harvard Business School like around 2007, because the economy just took a dive.
Yep.
All the places they were all going to get work weren't hiring or didn't even exist anymore.
Right.
And, it was like, but what am I going to do? But what am I going to do? It was the question, that he would just, was pummeled with. And he said he realized then, like their purpose was only going and getting a job and making money, and that was the wrong purpose, right? I mean, like it couldn't be that. And so then the conversation had to start of what's going to make you feel good about yourself? What's going to bring you joy? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. These are great minds that have done good work, and we can't send them out into the world feeling hopeless. So, I mean, really, rest in peace, Clayton Christensen and Bob Chapman. I'm telling you, if you are a manager, a leader, and you hear he's got kind of a scrappy voice and he's real excitable, I mean, you will definitely do it differently after hearing him.
So this is not a 1 minute hypothetical. I'm just curious what you would think of in a smaller office setting where you want to celebrate somebody's accomplishments outside of the workplace. If it's a small group, what would be a good way to handle Darcy volunteering at the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving? She doesn't tell anybody, but somebody sees a post about it. Somebody lets the boss know. What do you think would be a cool way to show that appreciation for what she's doing for her community?
So I do think the surprise element is kind of important, that the person not necessarily know that it's going to happen.
Totally.
Right? So whether you do it on premises or off, I would try. I mean, I love Bob Chapman's idea of bringing people in from their personal life to be part of the celebration, because I think so often we say, well, that's business, right? And that hides a lot of sense, that statement.
Sure.
Well, that's business. And I think if we can just say, well, that's life, right? Because that's what he's doing. He's blurring the line between business and personal with our behavior, in terms of our behavior.
Yep.
So I think if you could find if Darcy's single, find a couple of her good friends. Do something where the surprise is super unexpected, not just because the element of the surprise and the treats and a gift or whatever that would be, but that it literally has nothing to do with work, but yet work is celebrating her.
Yep.
And we've invited some people of her little community or cadre outside of work in to join with us to celebrate her. That's what I think would be amazingly special.
So the surprise in and of itself, regardless of what the surprise is, the fact that effort went into the surprise is meaningful.
So imagine let's just go back to Dinner Lab. If you worked at Dinner Lab and, they sent you, every day you were somewhere for 3 days and then traveling again and again and again.
Right.
So imagine that they brought you back to New Orleans and you had friends there, at Dinner Lab. But imagine if they had just invited Dad and I down and Michael, your friend Michael, and the three of us were there in New Orleans as a surprise as you were being honored for just working tirelessly with a good spirit.
Would have been amazing.
Amazing.
Probably would have cried.
Probably would have cried and would have forever touted that company. Correct?
Yep.
So, and then it also too, one of the things Bob Chapman says all the time that, family members come up to him and say, that my husband, my wife, my child can never leave this company. Do you know what I mean? They're so inspired by his contribution to and I'm not going to call it professional development. I'm just going to say their human development.
Yep.
That they're so inspired by that you would trust somebody in business with your precious child, right? But that's what he says every day. And if you hear him talk, he talks about everybody as someone's precious child. He has 6 children of his own. He correlates parenting a lot to this. And I just think, oh my gosh, what a different place the world would be and how we would perceive work, whether we loved the actual work or not. Our perception of work would be so entirely different.
That's great. I think I agree with all of that. And I think that type of depth of thinking is probably absent in a lot of business culture. And the small things like acknowledging somebody for the work they do outside the workplace is truly meaningful and allows them to have a better appreciation for their leadership team.
So what we're going to talk about next week, still leadership.
Yep.
But it's kind of like, I'm going to say how people use power.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things I think that these two gentlemen are talking about too, underlying it, is saying that power has to be thrown out to the masses. Excuse me. It has to be shared. And that is, everybody needs to be empowered to do their job. Nobody should ever feel powerless in a job. And we're going to talk about that next week because this is just the perfect part of they have engaged employees who are doing the work and being celebrated all the way along. And everybody, literally everybody is enjoying the fruits of the success.
Nice teaser for next week, Deb.
There you go.
What we are going to do.
Yeah.
You and I spend the majority of the evenings watching television together in the living room.
Dad, I want to say, people think Dad's not invited. Dad is totally invited to be, but he goes to bed at 6.
Yeah, he's invited. And then prior to the summer ending, would go to bed when the sun was still up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he can hang out as long as he wants. It is his house.
Exactly.
So you and I have just, on our own accord and together, have just searched high and low for anything to watch. Mm-hmm. Some would say, hey, why don't you guys take this time to better yourself, learn a new language, learn a musical instrument, learn something new. No, thanks.
No,
we're good on that.
But we don't turn the TV on really until evening.
True.
Yeah, so we're pretty good about that.
So this segment is going to be called What We're Watching.
Okay.
Technically, we've already watched everything that we're watching, but it sounds better to say what we're watching. So we just finished up 2 programs. One is on HBO called The Vow, and then the other is on Netflix called Queen's Gambit. Which one do you want to talk about first? Because they could not be more different.
And I want to talk about Queen's Gambit first because I found it. I never find anything.
And we will try our best to give no spoilers, just talk broad strokes. And then if you decide to watch it, great. If not, at least you know that there's something that we like that you might also like as well. So when it gets lean and you have no idea what to do, you can watch that.
Yeah.
Go for it because you found it.
Queen's Gambit, it's technically a mini-series, but it's not a series like a Netflix that'll come back next year. It's one time, said and done.
7 episodes.
But it's 7 episodes. We also watched the movie Emma, and I don't know the actress's name.
Anya Taylor-Joy, I believe her name is.
So we watched her in Emma, and we just thought she was delightful in that.
If you've seen the movie Split, she's the female who is held captive by the man with multiple personalities in the movie Split.
Okay, there you go. But she is the star of Queen's Gambit.
Yes.
And it is a coming-of-age movie, but it has some dark stuff in it.
Let me say the synopsis. It's a coming-of-age movie about an orphaned girl who happens to simultaneously be a genius chess prodigy in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yep. And so it's really just her journey.
Yep.
And, excuse me, her journey through her mother dying, going to the orphanage, being adopted at a very much older age, if you will. And then there's the chess journey. And there's just the journey within herself.
Yep.
You know, I thought she was amazing. I thought her transformation throughout the show was amazing. It had just, I always like a little hope and optimism. It had just the right amount for me.
Yep.
There were many times that it was taking twists and turns and you didn't know where it was going to go. So I love that part of the movie. Am I telling?
Well, it's not a movie. It's a docuseries.
It's a docuseries, yeah.
I would say...
Is it a docuseries?
Well, no, a miniseries. Sorry, miniseries. What I would say is it takes a rather dry, potentially extremely boring subject matter, and it is captivating to the lengths of which you haven't seen in a while. And I think that's in relation to... You know that if this is done wrong, you're going to turn it off after 10 minutes. It's an orphaned girl in the late 50s, early 60s who's battling addiction and is a chess prodigy. Like, okay, that probably didn't get sold in the room when they were pitching it. But the way they craft it, the way they focus on the character being this, outrageously smart and gifted child while simultaneously just being a child and learning and having to deal with the world around her. I mean, it's brilliant. I guarantee it's going to be nominated for a ton of awards come award season.
It was good. Well, Kevin, you just sounded, I sound raspy right now. Forgive me.
Cough.
I haven't eaten anything this morning except this tea. You sounded like a very good version of Rotten Tomatoes right then.
Thank you.
I mean, really.
I would give it a fresh rating.
Yeah, you did a good job. And it is worth watching for sure.
It's 7 episodes. I mean, I think you burned through it in 2 days. I think I burned through it in 3 days. It's a great watch. You feel good about yourself. The one thing I take away from it is in those period pieces in like the 50s and 60s, every woman is a pill-popping drunk, and every man, it feels like a potential pedophile.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's certainly some of that, but there's a lot of faces people will know and recognize.
Totally.
So from different and weird places.
Yep.
And then there are some people that we've never seen that did at least I've never seen that did a grand job.
Agreed.
know.
So now pivot to the docuseries, The Vow, because whenever I watch a docuseries, I always think, how is this real? How can something like this take place in our country? And it never ceases to amaze me. I'll bet there are just an endless line of docuseries being made about things we would have otherwise not known about that will always leave our jaw on the ground. And this docuseries, The Vow, about this group called Nexium, which just turned out to be a full-on cult, was so surreal. Not because it was a cult. We know cults exist, but first off, they documented everything with video. Every single thing with video. And they went after, cults typically go after like the low-hanging fruit, the people who don't really have a way in life, who are battling addiction. They just are looking for numbers, right? This group went after affluent, well-educated people. Yeah. And in the midst of it, I think it's really easy for us to say, oh my God, these people are so stupid. But if you know there's a hole in your life and you think you find the thing to fill it, I think it might be human nature just to blindly sprint into that realm to hopefully make yourself whole again. And the lengths that these people went to was bananas.
Yeah, no, so the beauty of this thing was you couldn't tell towards the end, a couple places, but really hardly through the whole docuseries, you could not tell what was actually the documentarians were doing,
sure,
and what was being filmed years before.
I think
it was wild.
I think the majority of the footage was the stuff that these people recorded themselves. There was never a moment. And there was this guy, Keith Rayner. He's
the guy.
He's the ringleader of this group. And he's an older guy. By all accounts, he's very smart. He certainly has an ego to him, but he tries to kind of poo-poo that in 1,000 different ways. But he, without demanding it, everybody knew that if he spoke, the camera needs to be on.
Right.
If he walked into a room, the camera needs to be on.
Even if they were, he would call people late at night because they all lived in this close proximity in Albany, New York. And he would call people and be like, I'm outside your house. Let's go for a walk at 3 o'clock in the morning. Bring a camera, bring video, bring audio.
Yep.
I mean, so everything is recorded, which is insane to me because I believe he knew what he was doing.
Oh, for sure.
But that's where his ego shoved common sense aside.
You and I, especially, having 20/20 vision and just being able to dissect it in a far easier way because it's the way it's being fed to us. You and I could point to, he's doing this to set them up for this. He's saying this to eventually execute on this. You could see his actions in the beginning were leading to the eventual outcome of how he was, blatantly manipulating people into just following him. And at the point that he started growing Jesus hair, you and I were like, okay, yeah, everybody should be running away.
And he had great Jesus hair, by the way.
It was a flow.
Great. I would kill for his hair. But so as I think happens with all cult leaders, initially, I think it was money and power that he wanted.
Of course.
And if he would have just stayed on the money and power, I think he'd be out today still doing his thing.
I think you and I would agree that a lot of the tenets they have, we would actually believe them.
But then it took dark, twisty turns.
Yeah, as they do.
And the dark, twisty turns are inevitably, even when people are so sold on the product or the person or the philosophy or whatever it is, there is some stuff that you just wake up out of a slumber one day and go, this is not right. And luckily, the people that began to wake up, because we saw them wake up, it was really over the years. This thing went on for quite a while.
But it took some dramatic actions for their eyes to be open. The likes of which I would have never even sniffed, let alone executed on. It took them doing those things to be like, oh, wait, this isn't normal. Right. This feels bad.
Right. And some of them even said, I still let it happen. It was horrifying, but I wanted so badly to be accepted, into the upper echelon, if you will, of that group. It was good.
So if you need something to watch, if you are desperate, if you no longer want to watch the Office reruns, by all means, take a flyer on The Queen's Gambit as well as The Vow.
Yeah.
And we're not getting paid for any of this stuff.
We're getting paid for none of this.
Deb. This podcast is dropping on Monday.
Okay.
The actual election day is Tuesday.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about this particular election, but I do want to talk about voting in general.
Yes.
Because you and I have actually really fond memories of voting. And I think it's an appropriate time to talk about something like that. I can remember you coming to my elementary school when I was at the elementary school and taking me out of class just to show me what voting was like. And even in that moment, in my young, dumb 6th grade age, I can remember feeling like this was important. This had purpose around it.
So we always voted for years at your elementary school, and whoever changed that, darn them,
Yeah,
because
shame
it
on
was
them.
very convenient. And I did think you should know, that it was important. I can remember that my mom, I don't think consistently, but took me to vote with her. And I think I was telling you the other day with those big old voting machines where the curtains would, whip around.
Snap around, yeah.
And it was completely enveloped in privacy. And which today, not so much. It's not like that. At least where I voted this time was wide open. I felt like anybody could have seen my votes. But I think there's a responsibility. We do have the right to vote, but I think there's a responsibility. I can remember going through phases and thinking, my vote doesn't matter. It doesn't count. I know for a long time I've struggled with the Electoral College, like, do I count in that system? Right? So that's kind of a thing. And then I think there's times where you just feel like, especially if you're on the West Coast and especially if you're in a smaller state, does my vote count? Because presidents have been announced before my state's even done, right? Like that's kind of happened. But I think the answer is it's important.
It's super.
And everybody needs to vote.
I think it's super important. And I think we've all learned that a singular vote does matter.
Yep.
I think we all know that it is a right to vote. It's not really a privilege. It's a right. And as citizens of this country, we owe it to ourselves. You don't owe it to anybody else. You owe it to yourself to exercise that right, to cast your opinion for what you think is going to be for the betterment of this country. Rarely in life do you get to flex that muscle. And every 4 years, even every 2 years, depending on the race, you get to do that. And as I've gotten older, I've seen the importance of that. And as somebody who has been voting for longer than I have, you have seen what voting can do to change the course of a country or a state or a district.
Well, it was interesting the night of the last debate, we'll call it the civil debate, the one that was more civil. I probably got 5 texts from people in other countries that are like, are you ready for this? And their time zones didn't necessarily line up
at all,
with ours. And I think that's where really the world is waiting to see what happens in this particular election, right? Because we are so big and powerful, I guess I'll say, is that we affect the world. And so don't take that lightly. It's not just you. It's the whole world is waiting to see how you voted and to see how it's going to affect their living, their livelihood, their culture.
It is rare that you get to genuinely feel American. And I would say voting is decidedly American because it's a peaceful process. Ideally, it's a peaceful process.
Ideally, it's a peaceful process.
And it's very cool. So if you haven't early voted, if you haven't done your mail-in ballot, and you are waiting for tomorrow to vote, best of luck. I hope the lines are short. I hope it's warm weather, that you're not having to brace the elements. I hope it's a very cool process for you, and can't wait to see how it all ends out.
And we hope people pass out coffee and cookies if it's cold and blustery wherever they are.
Agreed. All right, Deb, as we wind down, let's focus on our thankfuls. I'll go first because I think you have a visual aid for yours. I am thankful that this election is going to be over this week. This is as much stuff as we have gone through in 2020. The election has felt more daunting and more exhausting than anything else. And while I know that politics doesn't end on Tuesday, I feel like we get a nice answer one way or the other, that we no longer live in this ambivalence. Because I do think that takes a toll on us mentally, psychologically, and for some of us physically.
For sure. Yep.
I'm willing to say that this election caused me to black out in the middle of a stride and come back.
There you go, Kev.
Blaming politics for that.
Oh, I like that.
So for my own mental welfare, I'm happy that this will hopefully come to a resolution soon. And again, just having piggybacked off of what we said, I'm thankful that I get to live in a country where my vote does count.
That's a really good one.
Thank you.
You said a visual aid.
Yeah, it's right next to you on the shelf.
Ah.
Unbelievable.
Well, I kind of had two, but I'll save my other one because my other one will last. So my friend Beth invited us over for like a late afternoon wine and a little charcuterie board and treats. And she also gave me a belated birthday present that was a basket full of wonderful, wonderful treats. However, this is what Beth gave us.
You got to describe it, Deb, because the only two people see that.
Oh, that's right. So only two people see it. So Beth took our logo and she had it enhanced and enlarged, and she put it in a frame for us to put here in the office. She also created a magnet, which is also on the refrigerator. So it feels like, I mean, we're a thing, right?
I mean, we're a thing to our friends, and I think that's all that matters.
We're a thing to our friends, yes. And we love Beth. Well, first of all, we love Beth.
Beth had us over to her house. It was so nice. She lives, if you've never been to Northern Nevada, then this won't make sense to you. But I think Reno was founded in, 1327. I think it predates some of Europe. And then around, 2013, Sparks was created. In order to get to where Beth lives, you have to take 4 flights and have 2 different passports to get out there, because it's about a 45-minute drive. I feel like it's really like a 30-minute drive, but it's beautiful. It's in this beautiful neighborhood. Her house bumps up to the golf course. The mountains surround the landscape. Yeah. It's absolutely gorgeous. So her and her husband had us out for conversations and a little bit of wine and a little bit of charcuterie board. It was wonderful. And then she gave us this extremely thoughtful gift of our logo framed, as well as our logo on a magnet. It was amazing. All right, Deb, wind it down. Tell us what we're going to consume for sustenance tonight.
This is so 1950s, I'm almost embarrassed.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Maybe 1950s and maybe very blue collar.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not going, if I'm not going to the grocery store, then it's whatever we have.
Right.
So we have the ingredients for keto chili.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Kevin and I love beans and chili.
I don't. Do not lump me in with you. I hate beans and chili.
I love beans and chili.
Deb likes beans and chilies. I hate beans and chili.
But we're doing the keto thing. Okay. So it's just meat, right?
Sure. Okay. You tell me. I'm not making it.
Always a little lacking to me, I'm going to say.
Onions, garlic?
Yeah, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the seasoning is great. What we will do is we'll post our recipe that we use.
Okay.
But then I'll just note to people, add beans if you want to, right? And I'm thinking of food I have to use up. We've got some kosher, all beef hot dogs.
Oh my God, this is 1950s.
It is.
She's been watching too much of the Queen's Gambit.
So how do you want your hot dog?
Fried,
okay. And so it'll be chili with cheese and diced onions and a little sour cream with your hot dog plopped on top. So maybe a chili dog, but no bun, because we're gluten-free and keto.
Do we watch the Dick Van Dyke Show after that?
That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen to the news on the radio?
Watch Gene Rayburn on Match Game?
Oh, I think that's too new for chilies and hot dog. I'm okay with that. That is out of left field for us, but hey.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get weird.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's going to do it for us this week. We have talked about a lot.
We have.
I have fully embarrassed myself by telling a story, so I took the pressure off of you this week. You're welcome.
It's not the same when you tell the story, Kevin. I have to find something to tell.
It's because I own the hell out of it and am willing to tell on myself immediately.
It was awesome.
Guys, we will see you all on Thursday. Wherever you follow us and listen to us, like, rate, and review. Follow us on all of our social channels. Check out the YouTube channel. We produce this all in hopes that you'll watch it. Mom, I love you.
I love you, baby.
We'll see you guys later this week. Sweet. Good job, Deb.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you for listening to the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow Deb and Kev on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter @DebandKevPod.